This is part one of a JavaScript practice project where I fetch and render local JSON for a blog page. Then I style the blog layout with Vanilla CSS. It was originally recorded during a live stream, but I've edited out all chat and conversations not related to the project. There's a link to the GitHub repo and staging site in the description below. Enjoy. So we know that we have an article, and everything's going to be an article. Within the article, I think we need two more containers, right? We need the figure and the image can be second, and then that will go easily to the right. And then I also feel like I'm just going to call it div, but maybe it could be also called header. I'm just going to do a div. So we'll just say content wrap, and then if this is an H1, these will be H2s. So H2 secondary heading, and then we have kind of this meta data, right? We can put these in pair. This is going to be a time. These will be the categories. This is going to be the comment count. This is a link that is going to be styled like a button, but it will be an anchor element, and we'll just call this author. So paragraph with the class author. And then paragraph with the class, time with the date time attribute and the time, but let's at least put in a class. I'm going to say date. And then paragraph with the class categories. Categories. And then comment count. And then we'll just call this read more. And then this will have an anchor element, read more. So this is the admin. This is the title. May 12th, 2026. This is the date. So this would be 2026-05-12. Categories, places, adventure. So I feel like, what is our... So these all only have one category. That does simplify things. Comment count. So some of these things are definitely going to be spans, right? Well, no, do they need to be spans? Ten comments, and then read more. Okay, and then this will be a figure with a class of figure. This will be an image. Oh, we have to put in our own images. But that's okay because we have a ton of images. So we're just going to can I just copy? I think I can just copy the relative path. Yes, I can. Okay, we'll do that next. That will be easy. So here's where our image will be. Here's where our alt text will be. I'll just put this in for now. Placeholder text. And then let's grab, I'm just going to randomly Okay. So our JSON is done. We have a structure of how we want this to look. So we have a couple things here. Whoops. I think that we're inside. Okay, we just have to. I think we just have to make sure. Oh, we only have one, Angela. Okay. Do we want to, I don't want to add anything here. I think I would rather do it programmatically, right? Not make it a relative path. So use JavaScript to not make it absolute. Well, yeah, I guess use JavaScript to make it absolute, right? Which I think is actually okay. So, all right, let's close what we don't need. Let's go ahead and add. So this, we're just going to say blog.js. And I'm going to say export default function init motorcycle, loud one. All right, we get it. You have a motorcycle and the weather's beautiful. Congratulations. All right. Here's our module. Okay, so here's the thing that I always have to look up because I just don't have it memorized. And I'm going to look at my little library called the 30 Days of Vanilla JavaScript, where we spent 30 days, I spent 30 days just practicing, getting better at JavaScript. So I can never remember this. Who can remember this? Show of hands. I can't. So I just copy it. Okay, and the path is data, and instead of projects, it's blogs. Wait, yeah, blogs. So here's our fetch. And yeah, we're just going to do a nice little fetch and render. So we're going to do another asynchronous function. And yeah, we'll just call it init blog render. So we don't really have that transform step today because I made a rather neat and tidy local JSON file. So, and here's what we want. Here's our data. And let's just go ahead and console log. Console log is our friend. And make sure that we are getting our data. Where are you? Oh. I should probably be importing these, yeah, to the main.js. Okay, so here's our data. Good. This is the fun part. The render is the fun part, in my opinion. This is the part that I like. So let me just refresh my memory. We'll do another guard statement. Do we need to do another guard statement? What's our structure here? So here's our section. Let's, we'll just go ahead and say blog. And then we have it scoped and we can make sure that if for some reason this doesn't exist, we're not trying to render it. And then we don't get a bunch of errors. So this will be the root document query selector blog. And then if there's no root, we can just return. Okay, and then I don't think we need this anymore. So here's our blog. We're going to append everything to the blog. So we just really need to start creating these things, right? Let's put this here and we'll just start creating elements. Well, we'll create the article first. Wait, how are we going to do this? Oh, yeah. Do we want to create them first and then forEach, or do we create them inside the forEach? Probably inside. So we'll do data. Whoops. Data forEach item. And then we'll create our article, which is going to be document, createElement. It's an article, and then article, class list, add article. And then we're going to make a content wrap. So we'll just call it the wrap, equal to the document createElement. And it's a div. Wrap. And then wrap, class list, add a class of wrap. All right. Then we want our H2. So this will be an H2 document, createElement, H2, and then the H2 class list, add secondary heading. All right. And then we have an author, a date, categories, comment count, read more. So we'll do the author first. Author equals document, createElement. It's a paragraph tag. And then author, class list, add author. Then we need our date with a time element. So we'll say date, whoops, document, createElement, paragraph tag, and then we'll say time, document, createElement, time. And then we have this datetime attribute, right? So I think we want time, datetime is equal to, it's going to be equal to, I think it's just going to be equal to data published. And then we have some formatting to do, right? So data published. But this also has a class of date. So let's make sure that date, class list, add date. And then let's make sure that we append time to date. So we'll do that last. So date, append time. And we'll be doing a lot more appending here down towards the end. But for these things that are just nested kind of simply here, we'll do these on the fly. Okay, so next we have categories, which is also a paragraph tag. So const categories, I'm just going to say category is equal to document, create element, paragraph, and then category, class list, add. You know, I'm starting to rethink giving everything a unique class because these all look the same. They all look the same, don't they? So why do they all need a unique class? But they do still need a class. I just don't think they need a unique class. Or do they? let's just give it a class of, so we've got author, date. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe they can have their own class. Category. Maybe that goes on the list of things I don't have to worry about right now. Okay, comment count. Comments equals document, create element. This is also a paragraph. And then comments, class list, add comments. And then we have our read more with an anchor element. So we'll want to make sure that we're appending that anchor element into the paragraph. So we'll say read more equals document, create element, and then this definitely needs its own class. Read more, class list, add, read more, and then we need that link. That is equal to document, create element. That is an anchor element. And the only attribute this has, it doesn't need its own class, but it needs an href, obviously, and that is equal to the slug. So it's data.slug. So link href equal to data slug, and then read more, append the link. Group these together. Okay, and then what's next? Our figure with the class of figure, our image, we've got an attribute of source and we've got an attribute of alt. So what is that? That's literally featured underscore image, image underscore alt. So const figure equals document, create element, figure, and then figure, class list add. I always give them a class of figure. And then we need the image, create element, whoops, image, and then image, source, right? Wait. Yep, src. Image source is equal to data dot featured image, and then image alt is equal to data dot image alt, and then figure append image. Okay. And all this is happening inside of our forEach. So this is everything that we need. So now we need to make sure that the content wrap and the figure get appended to the article. So we'll do that here. So article append wrap figure. And then we append each article to the root, which is the parent container blog, right here. So now we'll say root append article. And with any luck, we'll see that. Okay, what happened here? Failed to resolve module specifier React. Relative references must start with either slash, dot slash. Okay, what did I do? Oh, well, tell me what page. Oh, this is on blog line 1. Which blog? This? Oh. Why is that up there? I didn't do that. Is that a typo? Cannot read properties of undefined. Read. Add. Oh, another typo. Honestly, typos are the best because they're so easy to fix. You just spell it right and boom, it works. And then let's make sure that we take this out so we don't trick ourselves into thinking it's working when it doesn't, because it's not. What else did I break? CreateElement is not defined. Where? Oh, again, a typo. I love a good typo. Figure, append, image. Again, oh, we love a good typo. Console errors are your friend. Okay. What else did we screw up? It's trying to load. Why is it saying undefined? What did I missed something here. Oh my gosh, item. It's not data, it's item. Okay. Yeah, okay. We love a good typo. It's item. So, let's see here. Item. Also, I don't even think I actually added the content. That's the other problem. Okay, Angela, get with it. Honestly, though, this is how you learn. You make silly mistakes. All right. And this is, okay, this is perfect. I can work with this. So, all right. So here's our wrap. Here's our H2, text content. So if you're new here, guess what? Clearly, I'm just in the process over the last several weeks, couple of months of like, improving my own JavaScript skills. So, I love it. Let's move this over here. We're having a blast. We love the problem solving. So it's title. So this is item, title. Okay, here's our author. The author text content is equal to the item author. And then here's our date. So we definitely have some formatting to do here. So that'll be fun. Text content equals the item published. And then we already have our datetime attribute filled out. That obviously needs to be, we're going to be back here working on that. Category, text content is equal to the item category. Comments, text content is equal to the item comment count. And then the link text content is equal to the item. Well, actually, it's equal to read more. That's a string. And then for our image, well, here's our image source, and here's our image alt. If we want to keep our data relative, which I think we should, up here, let's say const, well, we don't even have to do this up here. We can just do it down here. So here is our source right here. I'm going to say window, location, origin, slash item featured image. So now we're always getting that root URL. I think that's the better way to handle it. Okay. Look at that. Okay. Where's our text though? We're not getting our text. How come? So here's our article. Here's our wrap. Did we not append? We did not. So let's do that right here. So we have to append all of this into our wrap. So wrap, append, we want our H2, author, date, category comments, and read more. There we go. I mean, it's a little messy, but that's okay. That's what CSS is for, but we are getting all of our data now. All right. I'm just going to put a comment here. Blog articles go here. All right, that wasn't so bad, and we still have a lot of time left here, so we can really dig into the styling. So let's review what's going on. I don't think we need this. So we have a guard statement for our data, and then we have a guard statement to make sure that the root is there, that blog section. We can leave this in, right? This is like our structure, how we kind of planned out the HTML. Let's start with making sure that we have kind of our main sections here. So I think, what is the best way to do this? I guess the best way to do it is just put a class in there, right? We'll call it wrap, but we'll also give it a class of blog layout to keep it a little flexible. And let's just do display grid because it is so easy. And we'll say grid, template columns. So I kind of look at this layout and I'm seeing kind of like a 3-to-1 situation. So maybe 3 FR, 1 FR, and then a pretty healthy gap of maybe 4 rems. That didn't work. How come? Grid template columns. Oh, no comma. Okay, there we go. And I do think that having the wrap here, yeah, I do think that having the wrap there is okay. It's pretty wide, but I think that's okay. What's going on inside these articles that there's so much space? Oh, these have inline margin. So let's update that. So for section blog, let's take out the inline margin. We don't need that. So I'm just going to say blog layout, blog, margin inline, 0. All right. But we do still need margin up here. Margin or padding? Margin. So we really want the margin, I think, to be up here instead. There we go. So now there's our columns, and here's our section, and we have a nice healthy amount of gap. I think we could also use grid for the article. So the blog article. Display grid. Grid template columns. I'm thinking 1 to 2 FR. So 1 FR, 2 FR. And then we can give this also a pretty healthy gap. Maybe 4 rems. Yep, I think that works. And then inside of our wrap, oh, what's going on here? I think we've got too many wraps. Because we have a wrap here too. Well, no, I think I just put this in the wrong blog article. Blog article, blog wrap. Oh. Where is this coming from? Hang on, where is this coming from? Do we have a blog someplace else here? Where else is there a blog? Recent blog. Oh, this is probably from the home page. Okay, that's fine. See, this is what happens when you this is what happens when you work on something for a really long time. You forget. I didn't plan this out very well, so okay. So we have to rename this. Well, this is a really bad. I didn't do a good job planning this out. So let's make sure that this is up to date. And then, okay, stop. So we want this and this. There we go. It's a little better. Okay, and then okay, we just need to give the articles some margin. We need to make sure that we have text content there in our JavaScript. So here's the title, here's the author. So we need by, and we need comments. And it looks like we need an SVG. But also, let's use like an HTML entity, right? HTML characters. Right here. Let's do one of these. And then we don't have to try and put in an SVG. So here's our read more. Oh, it's text content. That's why. That's okay though. Hang on. Can't I, maybe I could just, can I just do this? Beautiful. That works for me. Okay. So for this, I think we need to say comments. All right. And then for this, category, all right. Oh, I guess it doesn't say. You know what? I'm going to leave it in. Category, and then we have the date, and then we have by. There we go. And we're going to come back and do the date formatting. All right, and why is this not responsive? This should be a lot squishier. Well, I think this is pretty narrow, so let's adjust. This is 3:1, so let's make this 2:1. Also, we just need to style those images. Those images really aren't responsive right now, so let's do that next. So we have our blog section, figure. The figure tags are going to be, I'm going to say width, 100%, height, auto, aspect ratio, we'll just go with 16:9, and then the blog section images can be width, 100%, height, 100%, and then object fit cover. Is that going to help us? Why isn't this responding? It should be. Is it because of this margin? This should be way more responsive. Why isn't it? We've got a max width on the container. It's not like there's a width on this section. Nothing should be stopping it from being responsive. But look at it. Why aren't the images responsive? Are the images not display block? Yes, they've got a max width of 100%. Lately, I just feel like I'm losing my mind. Like simple things aren't working lately, and I don't know why. Is it because I'm using grid? Yes, it's because I'm using grid inside of a child that has grid on it. Yeah, This is the weird thing about grid that I just don't understand, because you can use Flexbox. You can use Flexbox in like the parent, the grandparent, the child, the grandchild. You can just use Flexbox every single place, and it does exactly what you expect it to do. But when you have grid on the parent container, so here's grid here, and then you have grid again. Not even here in the grandchild you have grid. It just doesn't work. That doesn't make sense to me, and I have not done a deep enough dive on grid to understand it. ChatGPT has explained it to me and it made no sense because I just moved on. I was like, I don't have time for this nonsense. So if we use Flexbox here, we'll get the result that we want, and that is completely fine. But it's weird. Grid is weird. It is simple. It is so nice for the big layouts. It's also very weird. So we just need to use something different here. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. Some days I'm just like, I don't know. I just work here, man. I don't have any idea what's going on. So no problem. No problem, Bob. I can do either. And I love Flexbox. So we'll do Flex Flow. This is a row. No wrap. Hey, you gotta, this is the stuff that you have to go through as a developer, right? You have to like struggle through, see things not working, kind of understand why, move on to the next thing, get it working, right? So we'll say justify content. I'm going to say space between, and then we'll say align items. I don't know if we want center or if we want, oh, we want flex start. There we go. I mean, obviously, this needs some work. This is the behavior that I expect right here. This is the behavior. So we got some styling to do for sure. Okay. It's just weird. I don't know. It's just weird. Now I do want to change this back to 3 to 1. Now that I understand what's happening. So we've got a little more room here. I don't think that's a lot of room. I mean, it seems like this and this has about the same amount of room, right? So I guess we can leave it. And we just need to start working on this now to tighten it up. So I think we do need to put wrap back on our HTML element here, because I don't think that obviously wasn't the problem. And it does need to be centered. So yeah, that's not really going to work anymore. We need to make sure that we have a little cushion on either side here. I do want it to be equal to the width of the navigation. Let's zoom out a little bit. That's the other thing. There we go. Okay, this is making my life easier. Zooming out. Maybe we could just do 1 just like that. Okay. We need to make sure that we have a little cushion here on the left and right. How did I deal with this in the header? Padding. Excellent. So the padding went inside the nav element. I don't really want to put padding here. It's not going to match up if I do. So the max width is 79.375 rems, which is 1270 pixels. That's not where I don't want the padding to go there. I want it to be here. So I'm going to put the padding here, kind of like I have the padding there. So we're just going to put padding on the main. Boy, we're going to have to check the other page. You know, we could just do main has blog layout padding. That's what we're going to do. So let's go back up here. Do I have any styles for main? No, just the main nav. That's fine. We're going to add it. I'm going to put it right here. Main has blog layout, padding, inline, one rem. Now main has that padding, but we stay even with the navigation. There we go. That's exactly what I want. All right. Now we have this. Here's our section. So our blog section, we have to take out the padding on top. So we're doing a fair amount of reverse engineering here because we're trying to reuse elements, and I think that's fine. I don't think that's a big deal. So I'm just going to say padding 0. There we go. Now we have these nice and, nope. Blog layout, blog section. Oh, I put this in the wrong spot. Okay, now this is lined up. Excellent. And we've got space in between. I think that the image is bigger than this text area. So let's style the text area and it'll probably take care of itself, is what I'm thinking. So let's start with we have the article, then we have this wrap, and then we have an H2. So I think we want to use blog section to style some of these things a little more specifically, which is pretty much in line with what we're already doing here. This is the secondary heading. And I think really we just need to adjust the size, the font size. So we'll say font size, I don't know, 1.25. Maybe a little smaller. Yeah, that works. This has a ton of margin. That's okay, has a lot of margin. It's already uppercase. I'm going to make it a little bit bolder, so we'll give it a font weight of maybe 500. Is that even working? I was hoping for something a little more subtle. Okay, well, we won't worry about that. And then each of these paragraphs, we're going to say blog section, paragraph, margin, and I'm just going to say half margin on the bottom to space those out. And then let's make each of these, they might not even need classes. So we'll do text, transform, uppercase, letter spacing, 1 pixel. We'll make these gray, but we want to make sure that they're still accessible. I think the medium gray is accessible, but let's double check. And it meets the AA contrast requirement. So that's good. And then we'll style our read more button. Yeah, those don't even need classes, so we'll remove those. Our blog section, read more. And we want to make sure that, I think we want to make sure that this anchor element is display block so we can give it padding. By default, it's display inline. And then we'll say padding, 1 rem on the top, 1.5 rems on the left and right. We'll give this a border of 1 pixel solid, and we'll use that same gray color, medium gray. And let's do display inline block. There we go. Let's give it a little less padding. So maybe 0.75 and then 1.25 on the left and right. That looks a little better. And then let's figure out what we want this hover active focus to be. Let's take off that text transform, or I guess it's more text decoration. We'll just say none. I still like it blue inside. Yeah, I'm down with that. And then let's just give it a little margin on top to push it down. So maybe 1 rem on the top and 0 on the left and right, 0 on the bottom. There we go, push it down a little. And then we'll give it a focus, hover, active state. So what do we want to have happen? Maybe we could just turn the whole thing blue. So we'll say border color, and I think the color is, yeah, I think the color is just blue. And then we'll say background color, blue. And then we'll say color, white. And then we'll transition these. So we've got a transition of border color. We're going to have to do the whole thing. Yeah. I don't think that transition is going to work without it. So border, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out, and then we want the background color, also 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. That's just the transition that I prefer. You can use any one that you like. And then we'll do color, ease in, out. So there's our focus, hover, active. That looks great. I think we should tighten up this H2. We have 2 rems of margin. So let's tighten that up a little bit. And we'll just bring that down to 1. I also think that we can tighten up the margin in between these paragraphs. So maybe instead of a half a rem, we do a third of a rem. And so now this is much more proportional. So here's our mock-up. It's really small. This is really small. And I'm also thinking, I don't know, is this sidebar? Maybe our sidebar could be a little smaller. So maybe instead of 3 to 1, we do 4 to 1. Yeah, that makes a difference. it makes it feel like this row of images is kind of centered, right? Even though it's not really, but it kind of makes it feel like it is. Let's also cut back on some of the gap on this side. So maybe instead of 4, we do 3. Oh, that was on the wrong side. Here. Yeah. What's going on with our images? What's happening? You should all be the same. Why aren't you? Let's see here. So there's our article, our heading, our paragraphs, our read more. Here's our figure. Our height. See, it's got an aspect ratio, so what's going on here? Should all be the same. You should all be the same. Is it because, yeah, we need to, technically, I guess we're giving with the aspect ratio, we are giving, this is the other thing about Flexbox, is that if you define a size, you have to do both. You have to do both. That's why. It's because these containers are different widths. That's why. So oh, yeah. And see, we're using wrap here. So probably we need to do something like, even just having width on here. So I think we just need to say like, I mean, if we know we kind of want this roughly to be, what is this, 3 to 1, 2 to 1? So maybe we could just say the wrap is 30%. So that would be the blog section wrap. I didn't do a good job planning this. Yeah. That is the blog section wrap after the article right here. Magic. That feels a little cozy, doesn't it? Maybe 40%? Yeah, that feels a little more comfortable. I mean, we don't have any media queries in here yet, but we are still nice and squishy. You should still be squishy. You should still be nice and responsive. Just like this. And spoiler alert, I have a little library called the 30 Days of Vanilla JavaScript. This is what we worked on during the month of April 2026. And the reason I'm pulling this up is because there was something here. Pagination and load more. We worked on this. So I've got some things here for pagination that I am going to be referring to. It's been a couple of weeks. It's been about 3 weeks since I did this. I don't remember it. So I am going to refer to this once we get to the pagination. I also have my notes on the accumulator, which I've been practicing a lot lately. It's very complex, but I've had quite a bit of practice, so we'll see how it goes. Let's quickly sketch out our scaffolding for the sidebar. So here we're on our blog page, and here's our aside. Oh, this is actually the footer. Okay, here we go. Here's our aside. Here's the sidebar. So these are actually going to be H3s. And I'm going to give this a class of tertiary heading. And we'll say categories. And then we probably want, we probably want this to be an unordered list. So we'll say UL, LI, and I'm just going to put in web design. I'm not going to put all of these in because I'm just trying to get some basic styles in here before we run over to our JavaScript. And then this can have a class of, what are these? These are this is the category count. Okay. Yeah, we definitely need a couple of styles. And I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on the styles because I want to get over to the JavaScript as soon as possible. We'll come back and do a little styling afterwards. Okay, here's the blog layout. So here is, do we actually have styles? Oh, we do. Look at that. Perfect. I think that's a little bigger, but it's fine. I love it. We're not changing anything. That's our styles. Let me get this over off to the side. Perfect. I might take this down. This is 4 rems. Let's just take that down to 3, which is right here. So we get a little more breathing room. Yeah. Yeah, we have a little more room there. Okay, perfect. And then I'm good with the headings. What did we call this? This is the category count. Honestly, we should probably make this a little more generic, right? Because we're going to use the same styles as the footer. In fact, what did we use for the footer? Should we just be reusing that? List nav. How specific is that? List nav, UL, footer UL. Footer LI. Wow. I couldn't have made that. I don't know if it's like really generic or really overly specific. I can't decide. Okay. I'm going to call this, although, does it need to be inside a nav element? Technically, it's navigation if it's a category count and it's linkable, which I feel like it should be linkable. But I don't really have a, do I have a slug, do I have a slug in my API? We could make one. What's this? Do I have to map that though, or can I do that in the accumulator? Or am I just counting? I was just going to count, but isn't the point of this that you click on one and you go to all those articles? Am I overthinking this? I need a slug, but I think I could just do that in the accumulator. I can just add a slug. Is everything in the accumulator? Am I, hang on. I mean, you don't have to count everything. You kind of do. Why would I map that? Do I have to map it just for that one thing? Okay, well, let's just get our styles shipshape. Okay, I am going to put this in a nav element because I think technically this would be navigation. Nav. What were we calling it? List nav. Sometimes I'm just like, just stop thinking. Just stop thinking. We're going to adjust our styles for list nav. We have these styles already in the footer. I'm going to rewrite these styles and we can update the footer. I think we should. That seems efficient to me. So do we have list stuff already though? Yes. All right, let's put it here. List nav. So that's the nav element. So we actually want the list nav UL, padding 0, margin 0, list style type is none, and then list nav li. Whatever I did in the footer is what I want to do here. I added, margin to the top and bottom. The anchor elements are text transform uppercase with letter spacing. So just margin on the li and text transform on that. Okay. List nav, anchor element, text transform, uppercase, letter spacing, 1 pixel. Oh, my markup doesn't support that. Got it. And then I think we put these in spans. Nice. And then in the span, we'll just call it the count and we'll change the color back to medium gray. List nav, span. It doesn't even need a class, so we can take that out. Bar, medium gray. Oh, I didn't put it in. Got it. Okay, that's perfect. So the entire thing is linkable. But we do have a little contrast for our color. Perfect. So we're going to count these categories and put them right over there. All right. Let's save one so we remember what to do. And well, should we create, yeah, we should probably create the UL, right? And we can just add items here, render items here. Yeah. Okay. So we have to change a couple things around here because we brought our data right into the init block render. I was thinking, when I was thinking about this earlier, oh, I should just make another, like a sidebar.js. And then I thought, well, then I'm going to be, then on the page where I have a blog and I have a sidebar, we're going to be fetching blogs.json twice, which I don't think we want to do. And since our function to render the blog articles has a guard statement, it's completely fine to have functions on the page that you're not using because the page just won't do the thing if they don't exist. So if there's inner blog pages, it won't matter. We're also going to be rendering a list of archive pages in the footer. So that's going to be on every page, which means blog.js needs to be on every page, right? So this is my strategy. This is what I'm going to do. Another note, I did this after the stream on Tuesday. Because the origin on GitHub is just this. It's just github.io. I need the origin to include the tail end here, right? The name of the repo, the project. So I had to do this in order to, first of all, fetch the correct URL for blogs.json, but also get the correct path for the images. So moving forward, if I'm doing any fetch and render on anything that gets pushed to a GitHub page, I'm going to have to do this first. This just takes into account the URL structure on GitHub. And then for local development or even just deployment, once we get to that point, this will take care of itself. So this works really well. So we need to move some of these things around. So let's do this first. So async, just going to call this, no, that's not what I said. Function. Then I need this. And then this is going to take in data. So this is going to take in data. And then let's make sure that I did this right. I think I did, but let's make sure. Okay, I think I did it right. If it was wrong, we wouldn't see this, right? Beautiful, beautiful. This might be easy for some people, but for me, visualizing the flow of how these things work together, this has taken me a minute to get wrap my head around. So yeah, there's that. Okay, so now we need a new function, and I'm going to call it init sidebar. Also, we'll take in data, and then just going to console log data. Sidebar. I just want to make sure. And then down here, I think we would say const transformed sidebar is equal to init sidebar data. Although, do I need to do that because I'm not taking this and putting it in someplace else? So I think this is all I need to do, right? Yes. Sidebar spelled wrong. It would not be me if I didn't spell everything wrong. Okay. It's such a treat to get this part right. It's a treat. Okay. Wow. So let's do this. So const, I'm going to say transformed, what do we call it? No, I'm just going to say categories. Categories is equal to data reduce, and we want the accumulator and the item. And of course, we're going to return the accumulator. So we know that our data has a category. So I'm going to say if that category, the accumulator, item category. So if there's no category, then, oh, and we need to initialize, right? So we're going to initialize, I think, an object. We're going to initialize an object, and then it should return an array of objects, right? So if the item accumulator category does not already exist, we'll do the accumulator item category is equal to the object. Hang on, I'm thinking about this. we're counting. I'm going to look at my notes. I know that that's cheating. I can't help it. It's just the accumulator item category. Yeah, it's equal to 0. That's what we initialize, right? Why does it look weird? Oh, because I did too many. Hang on. We don't need this. There, because we already initialized it as an object. And then we count accumulator, item, category. I think we can just do plus plus, right? So now I'm going to console log. It's been like a week since I've done reduce and I've already forgotten how to do it. That's how much I need to practice. Categories. Put it in brackets, and then we have to return categories. Oops, categories is not defined. Hang on. I did it outside. Okay, so here's our new categories. There we go. There's our categories. So now we can render those. Those are like completely ready to go. That's wild. Okay. So I think we can do, can I just do the whole thing here? Or do I have to? I can just do the whole thing here. Do I have to do a whole new function? Am I being messy if I do that? Can I do categories for each? Or do I have to do a whole new function? Item. So do I have to return this last? Categories for each is not a function. I think I do have to do a whole new function. Still learning the flow. Okay. We're going to do function init render categories. And that's going to take in data. So we'll stick that there for now. So this is going to be data. Now we have a new function down here. I'm going to say const transformed categories is equal to, it's really equal to this, right? And then we have render categories, and we need this transform data, or transform categories, right? Data for each is not a function. Oh, is it because, hang on, it's because we just have one big object. We have to push that into, so we need an array. That's why we need an array. So we don't want to return, or can't I just turn it into an array? Object entries. Hello. I think we need object entries. I think I am overthinking this. So I think we want object entries, right? Object entries data. So this gives us back an object with key value pairs, and then we have to use object entries to convert it. Thank you. I knew it would come to me eventually. So here's each of our items. Got it. Okay. Boy, practice, man. Practice. It's been a week since I've worked on it. Okay, so here's each of our items. That was a fun little exercise. This is how you learn. You have to just like struggle through and remember and look at your notes. This is exactly how you learn. So, okay, so now we want to render each of these items onto our sidebar. So let's go ahead and we probably want to make sure that we are defining a root. So our root is the sidebar. So we'll say const sidebar is equal to the document query selector sidebar. Or nav list. I think it's actually the nav list, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll call this nav list. Actually, no, we're going to call this the root. And then if there's no root, we can return. I love figuring it out. I love figuring it out. This makes me so happy. Okay. I don't think we need that. We don't need this. I'll leave this here because it might be fun. There. Object entries. You need object entries because you're almost always returning an object with all your counted stuff, right? And you have to turn that into an array. So, okay. Next, let's get our UL, which is document create element, and it's going to be an unordered list. And we don't have a class for that. We don't need a class for that. And then inside our forEach, we are going to create an li. Whoops. Document create element li. And then our li, we also need a link. So we'll give it a link. Document create element. So we probably could have done all of this here. I just needed to turn it into object entries in order to do the next part, but I guess this is tidy, right? So that's an anchor element. And then that doesn't have a class either. And then we also need our span. So our span, document, create element, span. Those three things. Okay, so the link, yeah, what is our, so do we need a slug? Do we need to create a slug? We can. That's going to change this though, isn't it? Is it cheating if we just do it during the forEach? I don't think so. Because this, we would just maybe say the slug is whatever the name is, to lowercase, replace the spaces with dashes. Is there anything wrong with that? So the link href is going to be the item. Well, it's the first item, right? So it's this. To lowercase, replace all, and we're going to replace the spaces with dashes. And then the link text content would be also this first item, right? It's the first thing. Okay, I'm going to say we can move this over here. So the link is the first item. It's this. Oh, and I don't even think we'll leave 2 lowercase in, obviously. I'll leave in replace all because a future workflow could suggest that there would be a comment. We could even just go in and change the JSON. Let's do that. Let's do UI design. So now we have UI design. And then let's console log link. Can we see that? We're geniuses. We are geniuses, people. Look at that. I love it. We are geniuses. JavaScript, I think the universe is made out of JavaScript. Okay, and then the span is the count. So we'll do span text content is equal to it's really the second item, right? And then we would do link, append, list item, append the link. I think first I would want to do link, append the span, list item, append the link, and then UL, append the list item. I don't know, this looks right to me. I feel good about this. See, we didn't need to do a whole separate slug, right? Ingenuity, people, ingenuity. Okay. Why aren't you rendering? Shouldn't you be showing up here? Oh, we probably have to append to the root. So we would say root, append the UL. There it is. Okay. So let's make sure this right here needs to be in parentheses. So we'll do this and this and this. And I think we need to make sure there's a space there. Oh, whoops. Oh. Hang on. Brackets, $. Here we go. We are geniuses. We are geniuses. God, I love JavaScript. Why did I wait so long? This is so freaking fun. Are we having fun? I'm having so much fun. Okay, so now we're going to do another one. Let's do another accumulator for the footer. So we can make these. So now it's going to be the date, right? Yeah. So let's do another one. Function. Are we doing too many functions? In your opinion, what do you think? I'm just functioning up the whole thing. Init footer archive. And this would also take in data, right? And we're going to do another accumulator pattern, and we're going to try really, really hard not to overthink things this time. I think now that we correctly remember that we need object entries to convert our object into an array, I don't think we need 2 things here. I think we can just do, so here's the sidebar, here's rendering the categories. Let's just do 1. Let's just do 1. I think we can put the init footer archive in 1 function because there's just not that much stuff. So now we're going to go ahead and do another accumulator pattern, but this time we need the date. Well, first of all, how do we format a date? That was on my to-do list, so it looks like it's going to be to-do'd today. So we'll say const, this is archive. We'll just call it the archive, and it's data reduce accumulator item. All right, and we know that we're going to return the accumulator, and we are initializing an object, and that is just fine because we're going to turn the object into an array with object entries when we're done. So if there is no, well, first of all, I think we need we can convert the date last, right? Do we have to do the date now? It would look nicer probably if we did. So can we do this? Const date equals, is it just new date item published? Does that work? Is that going to work? And then I can just use date. Okay, we're going to give it a shot. So we're looking for, but I have to turn it into a month. Let's see how this goes. But how do I know? Okay, I think we need to get this date thing sorted out first. So let's practice a little bit. Let's just practice. I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to come down here and we're just going to do a little forEach. I don't know how else to like test to see if I'm doing it right. So I'm going to do this. It's just an experiment. Console log the item, the date. So what does that give me? Nice. Okay. So I need the month. That's what I need. So isn't it just date get month? Yeah, it's just date get month. Oh, wrong thing. Here, can't I do this here? New date, full year, get month. This is a number. Get date, get day, get full year. Do I have to do two? Hang on. I was looking at this. What about this? Maybe we get the date and then we do toLocaleString, which is turning out to be kind of a powerful thing. I did this in yesterday's video. Weekday long, year numeric, month long. I think that I take date, yeah, and then toLocaleString. Let's try it. So we would do month long, which I think is the full. So let's do date toLocaleString, and the locale it's US, it's English, US, comma, and then it takes a maximum of 2 values. So I think we just say month long. So let's say const month month. Sweet. I think that worked. So there's 3 Mays and 7 Aprils, and we have 10 items. So that means that we would have 2 items here. Should we mix it up a little bit? Let's look at our JSON here. So here's May. Who posts that many blogs in 2 months? Come on. We'll do 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. April 2025. We'll just do December. Keep it tidy. And we'll do October. And we'll do another October 2025. Change her up. There we go. Look at that. Okay, so we have a nice little formula now for our dates. So do we want to do that in the forEach? I feel like that's a, I mean, if we're going to go to the trouble of doing an accumulator, wouldn't we want to, wouldn't we want that to be the thing that we're accumulating through? Well, we wouldn't do a forEach. Oh, hang on. This is in the wrong spot. So I think because we are looping through things, this is all I need. Don't worry about that. There we go. Now we're formatted. Okay. So now we have our month. So I think the accumulator pattern now is going to be month. We're looking for the month. So if there's no month, then it's just month equals 0. Go ahead and create it, month equals 0. And then I'm pretty sure it's just accumulator month plus plus. What do we think? I have high hopes. Console log. Let's make sure we can see that. Archive. And then let's make sure that we are returning archive. Oh, and I think we have to make sure that this is initialized. Okay. Type error assignment to constant variable. What don't you like? Yeah, you don't like that. Oh, hang on. So now we take object entries. I don't think we have to start a new function. So just object entries archive. Oh, it's going to turn that into the array that we need. Item. And then let's just console log and make sure that we're getting the correct item. Console log is our friend. See, does the return always have to be after? I get so confused sometimes about the return. Yeah. So there we go. Here's our items now. That's cool. I can work with that. Yeah, I guess it has to be the last thing. Love this. Love this right here. Look at this. Magic. It's absolute magic. Okay, so now we can for each through our things and render. So we're going to really do like the exact same thing, which kind of makes me feel like this could function like more of a helper, right? So maybe instead of init render categories, it's just init render list. Like, why would we write this twice, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna move this up. So it was a good idea to put all of these in separate functions. So here's our init sidebar. Here's our init footer archive. So we could just call this archive. It's the same set of links, doesn't matter where it goes, right? And then here's our init render list. Oh, except that how does it know which one to stick itself to? Well, we would just put in, that's a good point. So we need to make sure that it's looking for the right thing, right? Okay, let me think about this. So we're getting the data, but we're also getting like the location, right? So the location is what? because we're using list nav. So I think we just need to make sure that we have unique classes. So maybe it would be like list nav. So I think this would be up here. We would say list nav categories, because I don't think we want it to be location specific, but maybe type specific. So categories. So that's a list nav categories. And then the footer, and we're going to have to change this on every page. This would be list nav archive. And we can take this out. Yeah, that's the list nav archive. And then this is the, where are we here? List nav categories. Yes. So this would be maybe not location, but more like type. So we need the type. So then this would be type. And then our parameter would be, we would initialize this twice based on the type of list it is. So we could say list type. I just want to make sure I don't forget what these things mean. So list type. List type. And then we initialize this twice. Yeah. So we've got init sidebar, init archive. It's getting complicated. So there's the archive. And then I think I renamed this render list. Let's copy this. And I'm just going to call this categories. And then this would be categories. And then this would be, what, nav? It's either nav list categories or nav list archive. Right? And then we would have const archive is equal to this. And then we would do this again. This is the archive. And that's the archive. Right? This makes total sense to me. Whoops. Until it doesn't. Okay, we're pretty close here. And it's so this totally worked, first of all. Yay. We lost our styling here. So we just have to like normalize our styling. But you guys, this totally worked. We are geniuses. We are geniuses. This is so cool. We lost our styling because you know what might be a better strategy? Instead of doing one category, we could just have them be like sibling categories. That is probably a better approach. Right here. So then this would just be like that. So now it's like location selector based, but we're not going to lose our styles. Boom. right there. Big brain, big brain. Look at it. This is dynamic now. This is so cool. I do think that this margin's a little juicy. So we're gonna work on our styles though. But for now, we're good. We're completely good. And I understand this flow. I think of all the things that really make me happy right now about this is that this flow makes sense to me. And I'm really starting to like wrap my head around what do we call these? Variables, attributes, what do you call them? Like the data, right? We have one render that does all of the work for these lists. So we didn't duplicate our efforts there. We're just pulling in a selector. I love it. And we have two really neat and tidy accumulator patterns. So cool. So cool. Okay. So what else do we have here to work on today? We got time. We got plenty of time. Do we have the emotional energy for load more? Well, first of all, let's format our date. Let's do that first. So let's find our render list. This is the render list. Let's format our date here first. We know how to do that now, right? We didn't transform any data before we just output it. So there's not like a separate transform step. So we can use this easy peasy for our date. So it's not going to be this exactly. So it's going to be here. Thereabouts. So I feel like this said we could do up to 2. No, you can do more than 2. Where did I see that you could use up to 2? Okay, so we're going to do, what are our options here? Oh, date style probably, right? Date style. Let's just see what these look like. So I'm going to say, so can we simplify this a little bit and say let date, 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 and then we'll just say date style, right? Date style. Oh, probably we want to say date style, not date, right? And then the text content would be the date style. Not quite there yet. Probably because of that. There we go. Boy, that's really slick, huh? Look at that formatted date. Beautiful. All right. Oh, now we need to make sure that the date time is also formatted. So we are going to do this again. So we're going to say, actually going to take this and move it up here. And we'll say let date time. We'll say let date time style. Well, we can probably take Should I be trying to reuse this? I'm not going to worry about it. New date, item. I feel like I should be, though. Okay. Efficiency. Let me think this through for a second. This, I think we should be reusing. So maybe we want to do const date style. Date style format. And then we want to do another one that is const date time format is equal to date style and it's English, US, and I don't think there's a preset. We need it to be year, so we need year numeric, month 2-digit, day 2-digit. That's what we need. So we need year, month, we need the full year. So we're going to say year numeric, month 2-digit, and day 2-digit. 2-digit, day 2-digit. And then this. And this is the attribute for the time element. So let's see if that worked. So this is mostly for accessibility and search engine optimization. So here's our date. Okay, we're pretty close. This is slashes, but we need dashes. So do we replace those or can we set those ourselves? And it also needs to be, it's backwards. It needs to be 2026 05 08. But maybe this isn't the right way to do it because if it's formatting based on a location or a locale, it's doing it strictly based on the United States. So probably the better way to deal with this is with new date. So probably we just want to take the date style new date and build it ourselves, right? Yeah, I think that's the to ISO string method of date instances returns a string representing this day in the date time string format. Okay. A simplified format based on, okay. Well, we already have that though. It's all actually the JSON is already an ISO string. So really we just need to split everything off after the T. So hang on. I'm just going to Google it. JavaScript ISO date. Why am I always losing focus? JavaScript ISO date split after the T. To split the ISO date string after the T, you can just use the split method. Here are the best ways to do this. Using split T, best for separating date and time. This splits the string into an array, creating a date part and a time part. Part 0, part 1. Using slice, best for getting only the date. That's what I want. ISO date slice 0 to 10. Parsing to a JavaScript date object for manipulation. Date object, new date, toLocaleString. Yeah, that's not what I want. Okay, so we're just going to use slice 0 to 10. So 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got it. That is the best way to do it. So we're not going to use this. So it's going to be separate. So I'm just going to say datetime format is equal to, it's already in an ISO format. So item published, is it split? Slice. 0 to 10. And we should get everything right before it, right? Let's see what I do. Slice, not splice. There we go. There's our date time now with the ISO format. Beautiful. So now we know the difference between when you use location or the toLocaleString, it is specific for formatting based on how we look at things in the US. And I did specifically, when I created the JSON, say use this format. I didn't specifically know it was called that, but I said to do that. So we're learning so much. This is why we do these exercises. We build these things, we practice. It's for this exact thing. It's just to practice getting comfortable with these different situations, these different scenarios, and I'm here for it. So clearly we're not going to be finishing the sidebar today. That's completely fine. We're going to keep working on the sidebar this weekend, but look at everything else that we got done today. This is amazing. We got a ton of stuff done. So I think the final thing that I want to do is the load more. So this is a little more JavaScript. So I think we need to get our load more button in. I'm going to copy and paste this in. So this is just a little button container with the load more. So let's go find. So here's our blog right here. And we are appending our articles right in this section. And I think that that's fine. These can live independently of each other. So here's our button. We should see our button now at the bottom of the screen. Where are you, button? Oh, kind of screwed up our. So we are going to need to, we're appending everything to this blog section. So we're going to have to create another div, or we're going to break our layout. So there's our button, and that's fine. It's honestly not the end of the world. So here's a div with the class of our blog section. Now we shouldn't be breaking our layout. But where's our button? We obviously kind of broke our layout. Here's our blog section. Where's our button? Oh, there it is. We just have to style it. And I don't think this needs to be inside of a container. So the color of all of our buttons is white. So let's just quickly make sure that load more button. We can actually see it. We have to be able to see it, right? So Here's our buttons. Where do we style? Button solid. Okay, actually, let's just give it the correct class. So button solid. There's our load more button. We'll come back and center this. I just need to make sure we can see the stinking button. And then obviously this. Okay, so we'll fix the padding. We screwed up a little bit of the layout, but honestly, it's fine. Okay, what else do we need to do? So we have our button, we have our container. We are going to first, we need a function that says count and slice data. So we're taking in our data. Cool, we got that. And then we have to define a page. So let's do let page and let items for page per page. We'll do that first. So we're going to do that. I think we can do that here. So we'll say let page. And then we've got the items per page, and that's going to equal 3. We're going to do 3 at a time. Oh, and we have to do let page equals 0. Okay. And then we need a function to count and slice the data that takes in data and page. Count and slice data, page. Okay, cool. The start is the page times the items per page. The end is the start plus the items per page. So let start equal page times items per page. Let end equal start plus items per page. Visible is going to be equal to the data slice start end. Let visible be equal to the data slice start end. And then we are going to return visible. That's the part I always forget. So count and slice right here. So where do we put this now? We put it right here, and this is now what we forEach through right here. So const visible is equal to this, and then visible is what we forEach through to render. Then we have to load more. We have to be able to load more. So let's get our button. Load more is equal to, and we're still inside blog section, so that's still, no, we're not inside blog section. So it's just document query all load more button. Not the end of the world. Query selector, load more button. And then we need an event listener for that, don't we? So here's our load more items event listener. If page is less than the total number of pages minus 1, page plus plus, render the UI. So this is going to move down to our init function. And then load is the load more button. And then we want to, we're going to do a true false because we want to make sure that that button, if everything's loaded, goes away. So the render part, we're good. We're done. We're done. So now we need to make sure that we get this event listener in. So really I think we put this in the wrong place because the button needs to be down. So we should only be seeing 3 things on our page right now, right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Good, we got that part. So now we are going to come down here, and this is what is going to be. Now it's the load more button, and we just need to count. And we want to make sure that it's disabled. Load more, disabled, equals false. So that's going to be the default, right? And then we want to make sure that we have an event listener for that button. Load more, add event listener, click. I don't think there's going to be any event delegation. If the page is less than total pages minus 1, where's total pages? Did we miss something? Okay, yeah, we do. We need to get the total number of pages. And total pages just sort of represents the total chunks in this case, right? So the total pages is the math ceiling. It's the data length, which is the number of items in the array, divided by the items per page, which we set to 3. So total pages, we'll do this here, const total pages is equal to the math ceiling, and it's the data length divided by the items per page, right? Items per page. So we have 10 items. We have 3 items per page. So if we console log this, it should be 4. Total pages 4. Got it. Okay. So now the event listener is if page is less than total pages minus 1, then we want to render the UI with the sliced data. And we have to increase the page and render the UI. If the page is equal to the total pages minus 1, meaning there are no additional pages, then we have to change the if page is equal to total pages minus 1, then we are going to say load more disabled is equal to true. So we're just going to disable the button. Well, disable the button or hide the button? I'm going to actually say hidden, not disabled. Hidden. I don't want the button to be there. And then, of course, we need to make sure that we're rendering the UI on page load, not just on clicking the button. So So we're going to do that there. What do we think? We're not, so it's working. Why aren't we hiding? You're not hidden. That's weird, right? Why isn't it hidden? It's got the attribute. Huh. Okay, so I have to it's because I gave the buttons a display. Well, do I need a display if the buttons by default are inline block? But I did that so I could give buttons, so I could give links, make them look like buttons. That's why I did that. Okay. So I just have to, we're just going to add an attribute then. Button, hidden, display none. There we go. So load more, load more, load more. Now you're hidden. Wild. Okay. I don't think you should have to do that. I think the browser should take care of that for us. But here we are. What do we think? This was super fun. We got everything that I wanted to get done today. We definitely have more styling to do on this. We're going to finish building out the sidebar. What else do we have going on here? We have a little more rendering to do. We'll go ahead and put in some accordions. We also have that in our little library. So tabs, no, FAQ accordion. So we have an accordion here. We'll go ahead and look at this. We can definitely go ahead, where are we here? We can definitely go ahead and render some latest projects. I don't think that will be terribly complicated. And then we'll bang out the rest of this sidebar. Yeah. So, and then we need to do our responsive styles. So what really do we need to get done here? What do we need to finish doing? I think we need to finish the sidebar and go through some of our QA items, and I'm just ready to be done with this. Should we make sure, since we're on this blog page, that we're not getting any errors on other pages? Let's also, cannot set properties of null setting hidden. Okay, we probably have to put in, yeah. So I think we just need to make sure. Let's do this. If load more, just put this, right? There we go. I think we have a console log in here someplace that we don't need. Let's make sure on our home page, we're still, this is not correct right here. So we should, oh, but we didn't update let's update the footer, right? You know what? I'll do that separately because I have to delete those things and I want to tidy up the CSS and I'll add the category. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off screen. And when we come back this weekend, that should be done. Let's remove this console log. I don't think we need that. Right here. Look at that. We formatted dates. We did 2 accumulator patterns. We have a nice little helper function here for rendering our lists. We did load more. We did more date formatting here. We learned about the difference between toLocaleString and the ISO date. Yeah, this looks great. Good job. let's just start working on our sidebar. So here's our design. We had an awesome day on Thursday doing, oh, we did so much work. We did so much on Thursday. Let's take a look at this. We queried through and we used reduce to get these categories. We did a ton of date formatting. We made these page links down at the bottom here, all dynamic. We forgot to put in the years. So if we have time today, we'll go ahead and add the year to this. We did our load more button. We just got a ton done. I edited back that video as a project video this week. And I mean, it was just jam-packed. I was like, wow, that's a lot of JavaScript, but it was so much fun. Here's our sidebar. So we have our categories. We need to do a latest projects. I'm going to shift how this looks. Instead of a horizontal, we need to make these vertical and include a title. This is not obviously going to be accessible. I'm not going to pull in anything from X or Twitter for this, but I will make like a little widget here and we can just put that in. It'll just be static. And then I would like to put in a little mini accordion. I think that would be super cute. And we are going to borrow, we're going to reference our 30 days of vanilla JavaScript. If you weren't here for this, we had so much fun. We did this in April and we are going to borrow this. We are not going to reinvent this wheel. We're going to have to, I'm just going to peek under the hood and grab some styles right out of the browser. And the only thing I'm going to do differently here is that I made this so you can only have one open at a time. So you open one and then the other one closes. And it's funny because for years when I worked at St. Thomas, that was the functionality that they wanted. And I have since learned that they ditched that. So they've gotten so much feedback from users that they want to be able to have multiple tabs open at a time. So I'm not going to change anything here on the 30 days website, but when we borrow this, what is it here? This, we're going to exclude this. This is on click, remove any active class. So we're not going to include that. So this is fairly straightforward, this JavaScript. I look at this and I remember how complex this felt when I was doing it. And I look at it now and I'm like, oh, we've come such a long way in the last couple of months. So, okay, so we are going to use this. Probably the hardest part of the accordion is going to be the styling. Not even the hardest, it's just going to be the part that takes the longest. So let's go back over to our sidebar. Right here. I'm just going to call this sidebar wrap. It's not honestly going to have any styles. It's just a little container. It's just a container to keep things tidy. And, well, it probably will have some styles. We'll probably need to make sure that we'll probably need like margin or something, but I don't think it's going to need anything really crazy. So we'll do a sidebar, another sidebar wrap. And then our headings are going to be H3s, tertiary heading. And what is this? Latest projects. And honestly, I'm going to call this latest posts. Oh, maybe this was intended. No, we could do latest projects because we have a project page. So we could just do latest projects, although I don't have an API for that. So we're going to do latest posts. Listen, it's the same difference. It's the same thing. Okay. Okay. And so we need to attach this to something. So I'm going to say div latest posts container. And then this is where we are going to append latest posts. Okay. Let's stick this right down here. So, well, actually, it's kind of in the way. So here is our sidebar, our archive. This is how we render our list. It's our slice. So we're just going to go ahead and do a new function. I'm going to call this function init latest posts. Stuff goes here. And then obviously we need that data. We're only going to grab the first three things. I'm going to put it right here. And then let's make sure that we can see the data. Console log is your friend. Well, it's my friend at least. There we go. So we only want these first three things. Whoops. Okay, so our root element is going to be, well, I guess we can just make this the root element. We're just putting everything inside of there. We're just checking to make sure that that exists, right? That's really going to be the extent of the scoping. So we'll say const root is equal to document query selector latest post container, and then if there's no root, return, and then we'll say data for each item. So what do we want to make these? I think we'll make these like little articles, right? So we'll say article is equal to document createElement article. And then since our sidebar header is an H3, I'm going to make this an H4. So we'll say document createElement H4. I think, no, we also need a figure. So we'll say figure is document createElement. This will be a figure tag. And then we need an image. We're going to create image. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm not going to give anything. I'll give these things classes if I need to. For now, I think we're fine. And then everything is going to be appended to the root. Okay. So how do we make sure that we only get three things? I feel like I should know that. Okay, I feel like I should know this. Do I just say data slice 0 to 3? Is that all I do? Const. Or can I say const? Maybe I can say items is equal to data slice 0, 3. And then this is items. Is that right? I feel like I should know that. Yeah, oh, look at me. Okay, so our H4 text content is going to be the item. The item, I think it's just title, right? Title, yes. And our image source is going to be the item featured image. Yep. And then the image alt is going to be the item image alt. And then I think that I will give this figure a class. Class list add. I usually give the figures a class of figure. All right. And then I think we want to do figure append the image. And then article append the H4, the figure, the H4 and the figure. I think that's it. And then the root append the articles. What articles? Articles is not defined. Oh, article. Oh, and we need to do, okay, we need to make sure that we have the correct URL. So we already defined this, so that will just be, can use this here. Here's the source. So we'll just say boop. I think couldn't we just do URL plus that? Is that easier? That feels easier to me. No, but it's clearly wrong. Image it. Oh, we just need a slash. No, we're gonna have to. URL slash. There. I think that'll work. There we go. Look at that. Now we just need to style that. So we'll come back and style that. It looks perfect. I wonder though if we need to make sure, we probably need to make sure in order for the styling to be correct. No, actually it's the H4 and the figure. That's perfect. I do want to switch these around. And then the article, let's give this a class. So let's do this. I want the figure to come first. There and there. And then let's give this article a class because I am going to Flexbox these two things. So we'll say article class list add. Well, we've already got latest post container. We'll just say latest post. How about that? There. Yeah, that should work. Yeah, I like it. That's going to make styling really easy. All right. What else do we need to do? This Twitter feed is just going to be static. I'm not pulling in any APIs. So this will be a sidebar wrap. And we have an H3 with the class of tertiary heading. And we'll say X, I don't know, Twitter. And we'll just give this that's a lot. Let's give it a little bit of lorem ipsum. There we go. Perfect. What's next? Now we need our accordions. Tabulation. Div with the class of sidebar wrap. H3. Tertiary heading. Accordion. Okay. And then let's take a peek at this. We are, what did I say? This was going to be like my little library of UI elements. So here is how I set these up. We have an accordion item. We have an H3, which in this case is going to be an H4. And then we have a button with the type of button, a class of accordion trigger and button, and then aria expanded false. And then we have a span, which is just really the text for the title. And then we have our SVG, which is this is the plus button, and when it's open, it rotates. And then the sibling to the H3, or in our case an H4, is going to be a div with a class of accordion panel. The role will be region. And then we'll have paragraph text for the content. And then when something is open, we add a class. First accordion is active and aria expanded true. We're not going to do this either. I'm not going to do the first accordion, and I'm not going to do this. Yeah, that which greatly simplifies accordions. So the active class is doing all the work. The opening and the closing all happens with CSS. So this should be a breeze. I'm gonna move this down. I can refer to it. So let's make sure that we get the correct markup in here. So I'm going to say div with the class of accordion item. And then we're going to have an H4. And then inside the H4, we'll have a button with a class of button. But we're also going to add an additional class called the accordion trigger. And yes, I do put a type on all of my buttons as a default, as a baseline, because buttons inside of a form element will always submit unless you add type button. And there's lots of reasons to put buttons inside of form elements that you don't want to submit. So I've just got into the habit of always putting type button on every button. That is how I do it. And in my opinion, it has value if that button ever gets moved or ends up inside of a form element. If an accordion ever ends up inside of a form element, now you don't have to worry about your buttons accidentally submitting the form. So there's that. And then I'm going to put in a span here and say web design. And then we need an SVG. I'm just going to steal. So here's our little plus sign right here. The SVG is aria hidden true. And it's fill none, stroke with an empty attribute. I get my SVGs from Ionicons, and they always have a stroke with an attribute of current color, I think it is. And as long as we can remove that, we have the ability to style that now. Okay, and then the sibling element to the H4 is a div with a class of accordion panel. And then we'll just put in a little bit of lorem ipsum here, just a tiny bit. We can add more if we need to. And I think we just want to make sure this has a role equal to region. Oh, and we need to make sure this is aria expanded false. All right, and I'm going to copy this. And then what do we have here? Web design, photography, people. Oops. Okay. So you can see here, this is clearly not styled. So I'm going to grab, let's just take a look here in the browser. See how this is styled. So everything that we're doing here, this transition to open and close, we're all doing that with CSS. So you can see here that there's an active item on the accordion that's open. And this is removing the active of whatever is open before we add it to the new one, whatever the one is that's being clicked. We're not going to do that this time. Anything could be expanded. So, but this active item is what is, so if we go here, the panel right here, this is what we used. Max height, 500 pixels. So max height, visibility hidden, but if it's active, then the panel is max height 500 pixels, but it only expands to whatever the content, whatever amount of space the content actually takes up. We use visibility because we don't want, if a panel is closed, we don't want a screen reader to be able to go into that panel, right? This is a button and it's a click event. And when we click, we add active, and We only want this to be visible when it's open. That is the correct accessible way to do that. So, okay. So let's do a little bit of styling. So here's our accordion item. Here's our H3. Yeah, we're kind of forced into doing some styling here. That's okay. That is okay. Okay. So this is what? I'm going to just go out a little bit here. Accordion item, accordion trigger. Start with this. Accordion trigger. Here's our H4. Here's our button. So this is by default display inline block. So our accordion trigger needs to be display block, so it's with the 100%. Display block. I don't think we have to say with the 100%. I think it'll just do it. There we go. And then here's our H4. So on our accordion item H4, first of all, let's ditch that margin. And then let's make this, and also on this button, let's get rid of that padding. There we go. Tightens it up a little bit. Wait, where's our text? Why can't I see the words? Oh, because it's a button. Let's take out our class of button. Yeah, let's just take out the class of button, because I feel like that's just going to create more work. There we go. And now I want this button, and actually, okay. So now I'm going to Flexbox this button. And the button is the trigger. So not display block. Actually, I want display flex. And it's going to be flex flow. It's going to be a row, no wrap. Justify content. Space between. Can't spell. Space between. Align items. Center. There we go. And then our SVG, I mean, it needs to be 48 by 48. So that's going to stay the way it is. And our button, really, we can make the SVG smaller. I don't think I'm going to, though, because that tab target is important. I want to make sure it's basically the perfect size. So I think on the button, I'm just going to add padding on the left. That's all I'm going to do. And then we'll change the size of the text. So I'm just going to do padding left. We'll give this like a rem. And then I'm going to say text transform uppercase, and we'll give it a little letter spacing of 1 pixel. There's our button. And then let's make sure that this has a border. We'll say 1 pixel, solid. I'm going to give it the medium gray color. There we go. This is starting to look normal now. And then how did I style this? I remember this took a while to figure out the best way to style this. I think it was just giving the panel a border. Yeah. So we'll give the accordion panel a border, but not on the top. and some padding. It's a little bigger. So we'll say border, 1 pixel solid. And this will be the medium gray color, but border top, none, because we already have the border. And then we'll just give this a little bit of padding. I'm going to say 0 on the top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right, because I think our paragraph tag is going to give us more spacing. Okay, we're close. We're close. What did I do here? Yeah, oh, we need to, the paragraph is literally pushing that down. No problem. Accordion panel, paragraph tag, but just, well, let's just say margin 0 on top, 0 on the left and right, 1 rem on the bottom. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then let's make sure that our accordion items are pushed apart. So we'll just say margin 0 on the top, 0 left and right, 1 rem on the bottom. Beautiful. And then I feel like I'm just going to have to give this, the padding, some padding on the top, which is fine. We'll just do it on the top and bottom. Oh. Should we just do it all the way around? But I don't want it on the bottom. So we'll do 1 rem on the top, 1 on the left and right, but not on the bottom. There we go. Because I do want the paragraph tags to still have margin on the bottom. So if you have multiple paragraphs, that's okay. And then obviously let's style this SVG. I mean, she's pretty big. Yeah, accordion trigger. We can just, we're going to have to make that SVG smaller, which I think is fine. We'll just make sure that we have enough padding for the tap target so the entire button is a good, juicy tap target. So this is the accordion trigger SVG. So I'm going to say, I know what it is right now. I know it's 3 rems by 3 rems. So I'm just going to say 2 rems width, 2 rems height. And I always set my SVGs to display block, always. And I always give them a fill and a stroke of blue and red. So the reason it's red is because I gave it a stroke of red by default, and then I know it's a stroke. I know what it is. I know what I need to do. And we do need to give our button a little more padding. So I think we could probably actually just give it a rem all the way around. That's pretty big. Maybe there, that's perfect. That looks great. Well, I want it to be a little more on the left and right. So let's do 0.5 on the top, 1 rem on the left and right. There we go. Yeah, and this SVG looks a little more proportional now. Okay, so let's actually collapse our panels. So our accordion panels need to be, we want them to be, by default, max height 0, visibility hidden. And visibility hidden is so it's not accessible by a screen reader if it's closed. And now this is pretty far apart. Oh yeah, that's getting, how did I deal with that? I remember Yeah, I remember having to deal with that. How did I deal with that? I think I didn't deal with it. I just let the paragraphs. Yeah, that's probably a better way to deal with it. Okay, so let's go back to, well, let's make sure that we have padding on the left and right. So if we take that out there, now it looks, we can adjust that, but that looks better. And then I think we need to just let the spacing inside the panel happen because of the margin. Yeah, but that's also, how did I deal with that? I am not seeing it here. Hang on. So this definitely has margin. Oh, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have margin. It has, instead of margin, I used padding. Okay. Because margin is on the outside of the box model, padding is on the inside. So we'll do 1 rem on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. There. There we go. Now you can see that it's collapsed. We can see that 1 pixel border. That's it. But there's no additional space. So I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. Say 0.5. There we are. And then let's change the color of that, our SVG. So that's a stroke, and we'll make that our medium. We could make our accent color. There we go. Okay, so now we need the active styles. So on click, we are going to add an active class to the accordion item. So here's the trigger, add event listener, click. And we are basically here toggling. Well, we have this Boolean is active if the trigger contains the active class. And then if there is no active class, add the active class and change aria expanded to true. So there's just one active class on this top level right here, accordion item. So let's put an active class right here, and then we can style it. So there's our active. So if the accordion item is active, come down here, accordion item active, what happens? Well, we change the max height and the visibility of the panel. So accordion item active, accordion panel, max height. I'm going to say 500 pixels, but you can change that to whatever you want. Visibility, visible. We also need to transition this. So we can transition, we can't transition height, but we can transition max height and visibility. So we'll say transition, max height, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out, and then visibility, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. So now when we add and remove the active class, we should see that transition. So there it's open. I'm going to come right in here to the DOM, just like that. It's not perfect. It's pretty gosh darn good though. Here's the other thing that I want to do is I want to rotate. This is going to be rotated 45 degrees. So that's our SVG. So I'm going to say transform. I think it's just rotate, right? Rotate 0. And then we're going to do accordion item active accordion trigger SVG. I suppose we could just do SVG, right? Transform, rotate, which we want to go left or right. I'm going to do negative 45 degrees. And we also need to make sure that we animate that. I'm going to say transition, transform, 300 milliseconds, and ease in out. That works. You know what I'm not loving is I don't like the padding on the right. So I'm going to change that value. It's fussy. It's fussy. So here we have 0.5 rems on the top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right. So this would be top, right, bottom, left. So this is going to be top, right, bottom, left. Yeah, that looks a little more proportional. All right, well, there's our accordion. So let's wire that up with a little bit of JavaScript. We should probably do a separate module for accordions. So let's do that. Accordion, JS. And here's our script. So we'll say export default function init accordion. And then I'm going to say import init accordion. So there's that. And then what are we going to scope this to? Well, we have this sidebar wrap as a parent container. We're not creating elements or rendering to the DOM. So I think that it's okay to just add this class, accordion. So I'm just going to add maybe with something a little more dynamic, accordion panels. So accordion panels, this is how we're going to scope this element. I'm going to say const root equals query selector. What is that? Document query selector. And then if there's no root, just go ahead and return. All right, what else do we need to do here? So we're going to get our items and we're going to get our triggers. Items is equal to root query selector all. And I think we just said it's accordion items. And then we want our triggers. That is equal to root query selector all. And that's accordion trigger. All right. First accordion is active and aria expanded true. I'm not going to do that. And then we're just going to for each through our items and then grab that first. And of course, query selector all gives us a node list, not an array. So we can for each through a node list. But we could obviously turn that into an array if we need to. And then we're going to get our trigger, which is equal to the item query selector accordion item. Make sure I'm grabbing the correct things here. So accordion item, accordion trigger. Yeah, I think I got that. Accordion item, accordion trigger. Okay, what else do we need to do here? And then we need an event listener on our trigger, and we want a Boolean is active if our item contains an active class. Trigger, add event listener, click, and I don't think we're going to need any event delegation. And then we're going to say const is active is equal to if the item class list contains active. The thing we just clicked on, item class list contains active. On click remove any active class. We're not going to do that. You can have as many open as you want. And then we're just going to say if is active, or if it's not active, add active. And on the trigger, the button, set the attribute aria expanded. So if it's not active, whoops. Item, class list, add, active. Oops. And then trigger, set attribute, aria expanded, there we go, aria expanded true. Which means that we are, you know what though, we are going to have to this is going to have to be a toggle, I think. Is active is going to toggle. Yeah, not contains. Because you have to be able to click on the thing and also remove it. So if is active, if it's not active, add active, else item. I know this could be a ternary operator, but just bear with me, indulge me. Remove active. And then we want to set this to false. Let's just make sure it works. And yes, I like to type it out. I like to type it out. Oh, what's happening? Add event listener. Okay. What did I do? Trigger, item, whoops. No, that's right. Accordion trigger. There we go. And then let's take out, I think we had active in here by default. Oops, what's happening? Okay, what'd I do? Well, let's just start console logging our way through this to make sure that we can figure out where we're failing. So can we see the trigger? Like, that's the first thing. Yes, we can see the trigger. So we're getting all three triggers. Can we get the trigger on click. We can, okay. So if, I feel like we maybe need to switch this around. If is active, remove, and set aria expanded to false, else, add, and set to true. Item, class list, toggle. The item is, hang on. Whoop. Yeah, the accordion item. Why isn't my toggle working? Well, we don't need this though, right? We don't need to add and remove the toggle. There we go. Okay. I knew I was doing it right. Yeah, we don't need to add and remove the toggle if we're toggling, right? We just need to make sure that we are, so let's make sure that we are correctly at, well, I know that we are. I just want to see our aria attribute get updated. There we go. Expanded true. Okay, that's backwards. So we just need to fix that. So if is active, set attribute, wait a second. This is backwards. If is active, so I want to do if it's not active. I do want to do that. If it's not active, I want it to be aria expanded false. I think that's what I want. Because it's false by default. There we go. That's what I wanted. There we go. Beautiful. There's our accordion. All right, let's do some styling. Our sidebar basically done. I'm not going to do the additional plain text widget because we basically already did that with our little Twitter X widget here. Let's pull this out a little bit. Okay, so first, let's make sure that this section and blog section right here, I think we want to make sure that if the blog layout has a section, we're just going to go ahead and remove that padding, which I think we did already. Yeah, that works. So here's our blog section. Blog layout, blog section. I'm just going to say, I think we can just say blog layout section. I think that'll fix it. There we go. Now it's lined up. And then in our side, we have our sidebar wraps. We'll just give those a little bit of margin. And then let's call this accordion. This is the sidebar wrap. I'm just going to say margin 0, 0, 0. 1 rem. We can give that a little extra space if we need to. Yeah, I will. Perfect. And then in our latest posts, we'll do our latest post container. Well, maybe we'll just do latest post. I don't know if we need to really style this container yet. We'll come back if we have to. But I'm going to say display flex, flex flow, row, no wrap. I guess I'll do justify content space between. Align items, center. And we need to style this figure. So this is going to be the latest post figure. Oh, latest post, not posts. And I'm going to say width. Well, do we have some? We have some default styles here. So I think all I need to do is change the aspect ratio. And I'm just going to say 1 for square. That looks pretty good. But I'm going to change the width. So right now this is 108 by 108. So I'm going to make this a little smaller. So we'll say width. I'm going to say 75 pixels. Oh, that's very small. Really? That was 108? I'm going to, okay. Yeah, this is the thing that I don't like about Flexbox is that let's try to, I need to simplify this a little bit. Max width. I probably want to use flex. And I think I'm going to do flex start and just add a gap of 1 rem. And then just keep this aspect ratio like this. There. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to let it just size itself. Yeah, and just let it be. And then I don't think it needs, it's got a lot of, where's this extra space coming from? Coming from the H4. Latest post, H4. I'm just going to take out the margin. I'm going to take out the margin. Yeah, it's just forcing me to put in a width for this figure. Like a real width. Maybe Honestly, maybe it's better to do grid for this. Every time I do, I mean, not every time, but once in a while I use Flexbox and it's like I'm using it for the first time. It's annoying sometimes. Grid template columns. I think I'm just going to say, um, we'll just say repeat. Well, do I want them to be even? I'm going to say 1 FR, 2 FR. Let's see how that looks. You know what? That's actually perfect. And then we'll give these a little bit of margin on the bottom. Beautiful. Perfect. So much easier. And then let's make sure that these are linkable, that they're just styled to support an actual link. Oh, and that would be in our so we would want to add that inside the H4. So let's go ahead and add a link here. Document, create element, and then our link href is the item slug. And then we want to H4 append the link. Did I get that right? Oh, no, we want the link text. So here's our article. Here's our H4. Here's our link, our figure. Oh, and we need to make sure that we have that. Oh, here's our alt text. There we go. The only thing I'm going to do differently to that H4 text is make it not bold. That's it. And so I'm going to say font weight 400. And what is the line height? Let's add H4 to our heading line heights, which is right here. That's cozy. Let's make sure that these let's go back down to our sidebar. Oops. Let's make sure that we align items center because I think stretch is the default. There we go. Beautiful. We could even, instead of showing the, if technically we're already seeing the 3 latest posts, we could just call this other posts or more posts and show the next 3 posts, right? What if we did that? So if we're slicing 0 to 3, let's do 3, 2, so it'd be 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 to 6. And we could just get the next 3. Yeah. And then instead of latest posts, we can say More posts. Strategy. And then let's make sure that I do think that this needs more breathing room in between. What do we think? That is a nice little sidebar. I like it. We have our accordion. See, I feel like we maybe want to not transition the visibility. How did we do that? I feel like I spent some time thinking about that too. So let's go back to let's take a look here. Oh, it was the color. I also transitioned the color. I think that's why. So when the panel is closed, the color is transparent. Yeah. Let's do that. So we've got max height, 0, visibility hidden, and then color transparent. I think that's going to make that a lot smoother. So that means we want to transition the color of the text, ease in, out, and then when the panel is active, the color is our default black color. See if that gives us a little smoother transition. Yes, that instantly changed it. Instantly changed it. That looks so nice now. Let's make sure that, because these are buttons, let's make sure that these have a hover active focus. So that's our trigger right here. Oh, it looks so nice. So we want a focus, hover, active. So we know right now that our background color is basically transparent, but we're just going to go ahead and set it. So we want to be, because we want to be able to transition that. And we know that our text color, I'll put it right here. We know that our text color is also black, but again, we want to be able to transition that. So we're going to define those two things explicitly. So let's, and then we'll deal with the SVG separately. So on focus, hover, active, we're going to change the color to white. And we're going to change our background color to, we'll do our accent color. And then we want to transition those. So we'll say color, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. Background color, also 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. And then we're going to want to add the active class. So if we have an accordion item that is active, we could probably just do something like active, although I don't want to do that because there could be other active items on the page. So we really want to do this. We could just add an active class to the button too. Yes, of course. So the accordion, if the accordion item is active, then the accordion trigger should also have these styles. Now it's got that style. I'm actually thinking that I'm going to start adding or removing this active because the buttons by default in the browser stay active. You have to like click off. Maybe that doesn't matter. I think I'm going to start leaving it off. The most important part is a focus and for sure a hover. Yeah. So let's make sure that we are also transitioning the accordion trigger SVG. So I'm going to borrow this, put it right here. So when these things are true, we want to trigger that SVG. Just like that, except instead of a color or a background, it's the stroke. I'm just going to change this to stroke. And then we're also going to add stroke to our transition. So stroke, 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. It looks so nice. I love it. Look at our cute little accordion. Super adorable. Do me a favor. If you haven't yet, would you be so kind as to like the video? Helps the algorithm, helps get this pushed out to more people who might be interested in this type of content. Subscribe if you aren't already. I'm here 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I would appreciate it so much. So we're gonna just do QA on this today and get all the responsive styles nailed down. We have a list of things to look at, but we're also just going to go page by page, top to bottom. We're going to remove the things that we're not going to build out or continue to work on. And then on Tuesday this week, we are going to do deployment. So you want to stay tuned for that because at the end of every project, I dedicate an entire stream to deployment. I use DigitalOcean. These are static builds. So I just set up a little LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, and we go ahead and deploy. I actually already have a domain. It's called Practice Layouts, where we have lately been deploying everything to a subdomain. So technically the server is already set up, but we have to create a virtual host. We have to update the DNS settings. We'll set up a subdomain. We will install an SSL certificate with Let's Encrypt and CertBot. It's a lot of fun. Deployment day is always a very good time. So you'll want to come and hang out with us on Tuesday for that. Yeah, so today's just going to be super chill. We're just going to go page by page, top to bottom, clean up the CSS. I don't think we're going to be doing much JavaScript today. I think we've moved past that. We've implemented everything. I did, in the footer, add the dates. So if we look at right here, so if we look at reduce and our accumulator pattern, we were doing month-long toLocaleString, and all I did was add year numeric, and that just very nicely appended the date right onto that. Beautiful. I got to tell you, reduce, boy, I really like her. She's a fun one. She's complex. She's not always easy to get along with, but I do like her. So we're going to be doing a lot more reduce in the future. I'm very proud of what we did here on this. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. I'm sure there's room for improvement, but I've gone from, so it's been almost 2 years since I started this channel. And I can tell you that up until a couple of months ago, anytime that I knew that I was going to be doing any JavaScript as any part of the build, the anticipation just killed me. I was so nervous, so unhappy about putting myself in a position to do that publicly and in a live stream. And I've it's only taken a couple of months of daily practice and like really drilling down to get over that. And I'm so happy because the last couple of streams where we worked on this blog in particular, as I was editing back those videos, I saw myself really comfortably going from the HTML and the CSS to the JavaScript and then back again. And I remember, and I felt comfortable. I felt comfortable and confident doing that. And it was a lot of work to get to this point, to go from intense fear and dread and anticipation in the worst possible way to being really comfortable. And it just makes me feel so good and so confident and so happy. And I want to ride this wave, man. I want to keep going. I want to continue to work with data. I know that I know that in JavaScript, you can really drill down into any number. There's so much you can do with JavaScript, right? Transforming data, rendering to the DOM, building UI elements is just one little piece of it. But I have to tell you, that's the part that I love the most. The UI elements, which I know now the UI elements are like kind of the easiest part. It's this data part that is just singing to me. So this is the direction that I'm headed for now, and I'm pretty excited about it. And I think the best part, like I said, is just this feeling of, first of all, not dreading it anymore, not having this intense fear, and comfortably going from HTML to CSS to JavaScript. I feel like I just closed the loop on what I needed to be doing on this channel, especially to grow the channel and bring the right audience in, but also just for my own personal development. It just feels really good. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. Okay. So what do we need to do here on the blog? I think the first thing that we need to do, so we tried making this sidebar sticky yesterday. It didn't really work. I think that I want to go back to making it 3 at a time, making our load more 3 at a time. So we'll change this. So this is our items per page. I'm going to change that back to 3. And then the sticky just doesn't work. It was a nice little experiment, but it doesn't work. So we're going to remove that. So I'm going to take this out and we'll remove that markup. And we don't even need this. Let's see here. So we'll take out this sticky container. And we have to take out a div. Okay. And now it just behaves normally. Good. Look at our cute little accordion. So adorable. I love that. Okay, so the load more is going to be centered in this container, right? Because it's not, I mean, I guess we could move it out. The problem with that though is, so here's our section. Here's our aside, our sidebar. We could take that button and move it here to the blog layout, and it would be perfectly centered on the page. The problem with that is if the sidebar gets longer than the content, which sidebars always get longer than the content. Sidebars can be, I mean, not always, but they can be really long. Then you can have a load more that is pushed down way beyond the content. So this load more is going to be centered here on this container, which is going to look weird. But I think we can make it look not as weird. So here's what I'm going to do. We have this blog section. We're going to give this blog section some margin and padding on the bottom and a border, and then we'll center this. And then I think it will make sense with the border. It will look sense with the border. It will make sense because it will look centered in a container. This is my theory. So let's try it out. So we've got blog section, which I know we have styles for that. Blog layout. Okay, blog section right here. So I'm going to say margin on the bottom. We'll say 2 rems. We should do padding first. And then we'll do border bottom. I'm going to say 1 pixel solid. And I'm just going to do our gray, which is kind of a light gray. Yeah. And it already has some space because the article, so let's make sure that the last article doesn't have that margin. And also, where's our design? Why do I think that all of these articles had a border? Hang on, where's our design? Let me pull it up. They do. So this had pagination. Obviously, we didn't do that. So let's make sure that there's a let's just do this instead. Let's make sure that there's a border between each one. And then if that load more is centered in the center of this container, it's not going to look so weird, like it belongs in the center of the page. You know what I mean? So let's do that instead. Okay. So we don't need this. So we'll do it right here on each article. So we'll say padding on the bottom, 2 rems. And then we can steal this. We'll just take this out. Yeah, I think we need a lot more though. Yeah, like double. Oh yeah, that looks really good actually. I like it. And then let's make sure that this container has a little more space, so the load more isn't up against the footer. So that would be this. So our section, I took out the padding on the top, but I think actually we would just want padding on the bottom. Yeah, and maybe 4. And then that will, if we do 4 rems on the bottom, that matches the padding on the top and bottom, and then we can just center that button. That was easy. It's nice to have a couple of easy wins. Okay. And our button is display inline block. Display inline block can occasionally be tricky to center, but let's see what happens. I don't think we can just say text align center. Yeah. So here's how I'm going to center this. I don't want to center the entire container, right? You can just put text align center on the parent. And that centers everything in the parent. That's not really what I want though. So where's our button? It's the load more button. Here's how I do this. Load more. Do I not have that? Do I not have anything? I must not be styling that because I have a button style already for the actual button. So that's fine. So we'll do it here. So I'm going to say position relative left 50%, transform, translate on the x-axis negative 50%. That's how I do it. Quick and easy. What do we think? I love it. I love it. I think it looks great. We've got some duplicate images there. Don't care. Do not care. It's not the point. I'm so into it. Okay, this looks great. I am happy. So now let's make sure that this is we just need to make the layout responsive. So I would like my breakpoint to be 1024. Right in there, right? So I think we hold up pretty well at 1024. So let's just take this sidebar and pop her down below. You know what I think would be a good idea? We have a lot of gap. We have a lot of gap here, and we have a lot of gap where? Here. Why don't we clamp that gap so we get a little bit of it's squishy. We get a little squishy. Yeah, that's going to help because I feel like this is acceptable, but we could close the gap, pun intended. So let's do that. Let's clamp this gap. Starting with this. So I'm just going to say 1 rem on the low end, 4 VW in the middle, and then that's a formula that usually works. So there's for our article, and here's for the layout. Oh, we definitely need to bring this down. Let's bring that down to 2. There, I can already tell a difference. Yeah, I like that. So I think 3 works. You just got to play with it. And then for this, we're just going to change. I mean, part of me is wondering. No, I think 4 to 1. Angela, don't mess with that. Don't mess with that. So let's just do a media query for the blog layout. And we're just going to change this. And we'll do 1024. And it's the blog layout. And I'm just going to change this to 1FR. And we definitely need to do something with this sidebar, right? So let's like make an effort with the sidebar to do something, right? So we have these groups. Why couldn't we build like a little grid for the sidebar on mobile and just to like put a little effort in? You know what I mean? We have this nice tidy little container. Let's try it. So for desktop, let's just say sidebar display block, which is the default display property. And then on mobile, max width 1024. And we're doing this for such a small number of users who will I mean, it is a tiny percentage of people who are ever going to see that sidebar at this screen size on a mobile device, but you never know. So we'll do sidebar, and then we'll change the display to grid. And then we'll say grid template columns. What should we do? I'm kind of thinking repeat 2. Oh, need a comma. And then let's make sure that there's some gap. I mean, we could give it the same gap that we gave everything else, right? Our clamped value. I think this is a really good idea. I like it. It looks so much better. It saves a little space. It holds up really well. So how does this hold up right here? It holds up really well. So maybe once we get down to about like 500, 480, then we can drop it into one column. That looks great. It's neat and tidy. We're saving space. So yeah, 480, that's impressive. And I don't think we're going to need that anymore. And we'll just drop this down to 1FR. And we don't need that anymore either. There we go. Actually, I'm going to take the gap out. We'll go gap 0 because we already have plenty of margin. And I honestly think that we should maybe clamp that margin too. So the margin is on the sidebar wrap. Let's clamp that too. Or honestly, I don't even think we need to clamp it. I think we can just change it. I think we can just change it to 1 rem. I like it. I think that we clearly have more to do here on the blog posts, but we have a lot of space here and we have a lot of space here. So we've got padding here of 4 rems and we've got padding. Well, we have the margin and the padding in between these things too. So I think that's also a perfect candidate for our clamp. This right here. And then we don't have to put those in media queries. So these, let's clamp those. So this is going to change it from 4 rems to 3 rems, but let's see how it looks. Let's have an open mind. And then this. Much better. Yeah, I'm actually fine with that. I'm just fine with that. Okay, so now we have to decide what we're doing with our actual blog post, because once this goes here, we're good. We're good for a while. Bought us some time. So at what point, I'm thinking 768 is usually the next breakpoint where I like to do another media query. So yeah, I think 768. So what is our structure here? Okay. So our content comes first, our image comes second. I kind of want to change the order. I want to put the image first. Can you change the order with grid, or is that just a Flexbox thing? Or can we just, oh, this is Flexbox. Oh, you know where I was using grid? Here. This is where I was using grid. So we are using Flexbox here. We can change the order. And it's still, I mean, accessibility wise, you do want the flow to match the DOM, but in this case, we have the content first, which I think is good. Okay, so we've got the blog section wrap, and we've got the blog section figure. So for desktop, we're going to put order 1 and order to. And then for mobile, we're going to flip them and put flex direction column. That's what we're going to do. So here's that. Here's the wrap. So I'm going to say order 1. And then here's the figure. We're going to say order 2. All right, we're still good. And then in our media query, we need this. So we'll do this first. This is the parent container. Whoops. And we're going to say flex direction column. So that puts the content first, the image second. And then we're going to say blog section wrap. We're going to change this to order 2. And then I think it's just blog section figure. It's going to be order 1. So that'll flip them. Yes. So this is perfect. Okay, so now let's style this image. We're going to need to restyle this image for mobile. So let's make, so the aspect ratio, this is interesting. Flex direction column flipped the aspect ratio. That's cool. I think what I'm just going to do is change it to a square. So aspect ratio 1. Are you going to let me change this to a square? So what if I did the, I am confused. Is it because of the height? Every time I think I have images figured out, I have to change the height. Got it. Usually I have height auto. So I think I will keep it as 16:9. So I have to change the height there. I don't know why. Every time I think I have images figured out, I don't have images figured out. Okay, so we're just going to add a new height. I don't know why. I don't know why that works. I mean, when I tell you the hours of my life that I've spent dealing with images, it's a lot. So we'll say width 100%. I mean, this kind of works. It kind of works, right? Let's tighten up some of the spacing. And I think that this will be just fine. So I think I'm just going to remove the margin because we have enough line height to keep those things separated. So blog section for the paragraphs, we'll add that. And this is, listen, this is the crux of responsive design. Just take a top to bottom approach, work your way down, and just do one thing at a time. It really doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. So let's cut down this margin a little bit. This is 1 rem of margin on the bottom. Let's cut that down to 0.5. Just chip away at it. There's nothing wrong with that. It can feel extremely fussy, but I got news for you. It's fussy. It's just how it is. It is okay. Look at that. That looks really nice. And then here's our read more button, which has some margin on it. I think we should take that off. Oh, we kind of need that. But maybe we can just cut that down too. Yeah, we'll just take that down to 0.5. So we're just going to cut down that margin. Put that right here. 0.5 rems on the top, 0 on the left and right, 0 on the bottom. Look at that. It looks really nice. Let's see what the full experience is here. Yeah, I think that is just fine. Yeah, we did a nice little grid for our footer too. Nice. I like it. Yeah, this is looking, this is, I think, one of my favorite things that I've built in a really long time. Not gonna lie, a lot of it has to do with the amount of JavaScript happening on this page. I'm extremely proud of that. But I just think it looks really cool. I just think it looks really, really nice. I really love our little accordions. They're so adorable. So adorable. Okay. So we're pretty well versed here. Things are pretty tight when it comes to our responsive styles. I think this is looking fine. This button, what's happening with this button? Oh, we're clamping the padding on the button. I mean, I guess it's okay. I like what I don't know why I decided to do that. Hmm. I don't think I'm going to worry about it. I would like to, I think we could tighten this up a little bit, maybe. So I think we could start, this is going to be obviously a global style. It's going to happen for all the pages. So if we took this down, I think we could take this down to 2 rems. Definitely only want that in a media query. So where would we want to do that? I think I would do that right around 768. Yeah. So let's move on to some of our other pages. We'll start with that. It's going to be kind of our final thing that we do here for the blog page. So the section is somewhere. It's here somewhere. Where are you? Forms. Jesus, where are you? Okay, there you are. 554. Why is it so low? Okay. What do we have going on here? Where are we? Are we in like a layout? So there's buttons, reset, section. Okay, so we do have a media query here for this. So let's go ahead and add. We've got a 768 here, so we'll just add section. It's been so long since we worked on this part. I don't remember. And I think we'll do 2 rems on the top and bottom. There we go. I think that's good. Yep, so it's still got a little bit of room. Okay. Well, that concludes the blog page. This is me reminding you to like this video. Like this video. Like this video.